And we've tried to do that 13 times. And you voted no 13 times. This isn't a political game. These are real people's lives that we're talking about. And you all have just figured out, 29 days in, that, oh, there might be some consequences. There are people who run out of money. Yeah, we're 29 days in. And they've done their best to make sure that a lot of these programs are funded. But at some point, the government runs out of money. 13 times, people over here voted to fund SNAP. 13 times they voted to fund WIC. My aching back. Finally realized this thing has consequences. Well, you know what? What Democrats are doing here, they're making plans to keep the shutdown going.
Yes, they are. Hey, welcome into Courageous Media. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. So that was Senate Majority Leader John Thune losing it on the on the Senate floor last night over this entire shutdown nonsense. What I call the Schumer snapocalypse is about to hit. As of tomorrow, there will be no SNAP benefits unless there's some type of emergency deal reached. And they're not even voting today. They had their last vote, their 13th vote last night. And there is no 14th vote scheduled. Either they had it this morning and there's nothing scheduled for this afternoon, or they didn't schedule one today at all because people are getting fed up with this nonsense. One of the lone voices of sanity in the Democrat Party, God forbid I say this, John Fetterman, we've got a clip of him lambasting the Democrats over this whole thing. It is getting brutally ugly. And we got Trump calling for the quote unquote nuclear option. We're going to dive into all of that. The shutdown showcase as we head into the weekend in by Tuesday, what will be the longest shutdown, if it goes that long, in U.S. history. But I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks so much for being here. Resnap in the house. Appreciate you being here. Please, everybody, if you could, smash that like button for me. Subscribe. If you haven't already, turn on the notifications. If you have them already, check them because YouTube loves to turn them off. I really appreciate you being here. Core 4x4v6. Awesome. Great to have you here. All right, so let's dive right in. We've got all sorts of stuff going on. The first thing is we've got multiple people and corporations now actively calling for the Democrats to end this nonsense. And the first one we've got is Teamster President Sean O'Brien. Check this out.
Look, the bottom line, and we took a position, I represent 1.3 million working men and women in this country for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. We took a position 3 weeks ago. Pass a clean CR, get to the table, negotiate a deal. Do not put working people in the middle of a problem they should not be in there. And we got to think about the families that are going to be affected. Think about when you have to tell your son or daughter they can't play sports because you're not getting paid. Think about when you can't pay your mortgage. Think about when you can't pay your tuition. Put the politics aside, get to the table, negotiate a deal, pass a clean CR right now, and then figure out the problems moving forward. And I want to thank the air traffic controllers. I want to thank the aviation administration for all their hard work and sacrifice they make. And look, security and safety of the airlines is paramount. Let's not compromise the safety and security. Pass a clean CR. Thank you.
But the Democrats have already compromised it. As Sean O'Brien says, pass a clean CR, something the Republicans did 31 days ago. The House passed it, well, actually more than 31 days ago. The House passed it well in advance of the shutdown date of October 1st. And then the Senate voted on it, and they have voted on it now 13 times, with all Republicans voting for a clean CR and virtually every Democrat voting against. So now you've got the Teamsters president, who is essentially the Democrats are pushing right into the arms of Trump and the GOP. Remember, he spoke at the RNC, and he was he's never been a Republican and he wasn't a huge Trump fan, but he saw the writing on the wall that the Republicans and the GOP are the only party out there advocating for the rights of and the benefits of American workers, American citizens, the blue collar. And here he is talking about the fact that this is really bad news for blue collar workers. Now, let's dive in. We got a little Fox News clip going into a lot of this, a lot of the ramifications of the shutdown as it enters this 31st day, as basically goes beyond a month. And we've also got the CEO of Delta calling for something similar. Here we go.
Pressure is mounting. Troops are getting paid today after the Pentagon shifted some funds around, but federal SNAP benefits run out this weekend, and we're already seeing major flight disruptions in places like Orlando and here in Washington.
Look, it could be a disaster. It really could be, because at that point, you're talking about people have missed 3 paychecks. They've missed 4 paychecks. What happens when pilots start not showing up for work because they're so focused on paying the bills, they can't fly the plane safely? That's going to lead to massive delays. We want people to be able to get home for Thanksgiving.
And Delta Airlines joining the calls for Congress to pass the Republican bill, saying Delta Airlines implores Congress to immediately pass a clean continuing resolution to reopen the government so that our air traffic controllers, TSA, and CBP officers charged with the safety and efficiency of our national airspace can collect the paychecks they deserve.
They're going to have to go take a second job, and you're going to have mass issues throughout the airspace. People will not be able to go from one place to the other because of the government shutdown, and I hope Democrats don't take it to that point.
All right. So I want to stop it there. Delta Airlines, not known as the most conservative politically airline, that would go to United generally. But they are calling for Congress to pass a clean CR. You've got Secretary of Transportation Duffy there and JD Vance talking about the fact that air traffic controllers are now not getting paid. They're obviously not as high up on the priority list as the military. The government was able to shift some money around. They got some donors to be able to pay military members, according to the news. But air traffic controllers are not getting paid. And so some of them are going to take second jobs. Some of them are calling out of work. What would you do if you weren't getting paid? Would you still show up? I don't know. It's a difficult question. But the problem is that without those air traffic controllers, you've got a major decrease in the amount of flights that can be monitored and processed across the country. So you've got airlines canceling flights because with a reduced staff, air traffic control staff, you cannot have the same number of flights in the air going through approach control, departure control. So they're going to be limited. There are going to be a lot of flight cancellations, which is going to cost the airlines billions of dollars, which is going to affect those jobs. They're saying that this government shutdown could cost the economy $7 to $14 billion. And that's one of the reasons why I think Trump is starting to jump on board with this. But before we get to Trump, I want to go through 3 clips. 2, basically Joe on the street who have figured out what this shutdown is all about. And then we're going to dive into Fetterman, who's calling again for the Democrats to show some level of sanity. Frankly, Fetterman probably just needs to jump over and register as a Republican. He doesn't vote Republican most of the time, but he certainly is not a Democrat. He should at least become independent. This is interesting stuff. But check out, I got 2 guys who have really figured out what this shutdown is all about. And let's hear it from them.
So you still think Republicans are responsible for this government shutdown? Tell me you didn't pay attention in civics class without telling me you didn't pay attention in civics class. Let me break this down for you like you were 5 years old. There are 100 senators, right? And yes, there are more than 50 Republican senators, right? But you need to have at least 60 votes to pass through legislation and to reopen the government. And of course, the Democrats know this. So even though they are the statistical minority, they have just enough individuals who are able to hold out to stonewall legislation to reopen the federal government. If you sit there and think, oh, Republicans have control of the House, the White House, and the Senate, why can't they get anything done? Why are they blaming Democrats? It's because Democrats know exactly what they're doing, okay? And if Republicans were able to actually ram through whatever they wanted, if Trump was able to do whatever he really wanted to do, guess what that would make him? It would make him a king, right? Remember you were out there a few days ago talking about no kings. Congratulations, you protested something that didn't even exist, but I digress. And you knew that already. But the fact of the matter is, it's not a Republican shutdown. It is because of Democrats who have gone on record to say that they are using this as leverage. They're using American citizens, American families as leverage as they continue to crusade for benefits for illegal immigrants. And that's just the God's honest truth. And don't let anyone tell you any differently.
Exactly. They are using American citizens' suffering as leverage in order to get what they want. The two big things they want are health care for illegal criminal migrants and $800 billion a year in insurance company Obamacare subsidies. Basically, just flat out transfers of US taxpayer money, your money, directly to big insurance companies. That's what this is all about. That's almost $1 trillion a year. They want $1 trillion a year in bribes to their big donors. That's what this is all about. Now check out this one because he's got it right nailed as well. Here we go.
Why is the government shutdown not a both sides issue? Why are the Democrats to blame? Well, Democrats are using a short-term spending bill to push long-term policy changes that don't belong there. They've said it outright. They will not vote to reopen the government unless their healthcare demands are met. What they're demanding is an extension of temporary COVID-era spending that artificially lowered healthcare costs under the Affordable Care Act. Those measures were not part of the ACA itself. They were emergency subsidies created under the American Rescue Plan Act and later extended through 2025 by the Inflation Reduction Act. When that spending expires, the ACA simply returns to its original pricing framework. Not a spike, not a crisis, just a return to baseline after years of inflated relief funding. And yes, people will feel it. Premiums will adjust. But that's not because Republicans raised prices. It's because Democrats are refusing to admit that these subsidies were temporary. They're using the fear of higher costs, a perception they created, to justify holding the government hostage. And because Republicans are in full power, this is great leverage to make it look like it's their fault. Now, here's where it gets even more reckless. They're not just trying to extend the pandemic subsidies, they're also trying to reopen and revise parts of the One Big Beautiful Bill, a massive spending law that's already been passed and signed into law earlier this year. The One Big Beautiful Bill reshaped portions of Medicaid and other federal programs, and Democrats now want to undo sections of it by tying their changes to the current funding debate.
Exactly. So here's where we get, this is the two things the Democrats want. They know that Obamacare is an utter and complete failure. It is a debacle. It has driven people's premiums up. It has driven the healthcare costs up. Remember the lie that Obama called, you can keep your doctor and your plan. No, you can't. They've all been done away with. And the problem is that the ACA, Obamacare, was written by two primary groups of people, the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies, along with a minor third in the provider network, in the hospitals. You've got big insurance, big pharma, big hospitals. And what ACA essentially did was it has ratcheted up the government regulation in hospitals on doctors. It creates a shortage of doctors, which drives prices up. It says that doctors can't open independent hospitals, which means there's no competition to big hospitals, which drives prices up. It then gives all of this taxpayer money direct to insurance companies to essentially keep the premiums artificially down temporarily. Well, they want to make all this permanent. They want to make the ACA subsidies permanent, $1 trillion a year to insurance companies. They want to do that, and they want to extend. They want to break the big beautiful bill and extend Medicare, essentially more subsidies to the insurance companies, to the hospitals, to treat criminal illegal aliens in our country. These are the two things they want. They want permanent $2 trillion of spending easily tacked onto a 7-week spending bill. And that's not something that the Republicans should ever go along with. But that's what this is about. Now, Fetterman's got it. Fetterman realizes this is a loser for the Democrats eventually in the long run. And it's a loser because it is hurting American people. Check this out.
So what are you hearing back home about SNAP expiring on Saturday?
I'm saying that I will witness it firsthand. My wife, Giselle, she develops the free store in our community, and it distributes food 3 times a week, and her lines have already got longer. And now I will encounter people that have no SNAP benefits starting on Saturday, and I don't have an explanation for them. All I could say is, I'm sorry. It's an absolute failure what occurred here for the last month, and now things are really going to land. And imagine being a parent with a couple kids and how you're going to fill a refrigerator and pack their lunches and get on with their lives when the things that they've depended on now is gone because we can't even agree to just open things up. For if a Democrat, we're not allowed to just open this up. I mean, then our party has bigger problems than I thought we might have already. It's like, that's not controversial. Pay everybody. And you have our workers here borrowed over $350 million to pay their own bills. Like, it's a failure. And like I said, to all of the viewers, I'm apologizing that we can't even get our shit together and just open up our government.
Wow. So who would have thought, when was Fetterman elected? Fetterman was elected 4 years ago. Who would have thought that the ultimate voice of reason in the Democrat Party would have been John Fetterman? I mean, I remember just decrying the day that Fetterman got elected as senator in Pennsylvania because he was clearly mentally impaired at the time. Well, since then, he's got his faculties back around, but wow, for him to be the lone voice of reason in the Democrat Party is just amazing. It shows you how the entire party has shifted ultra left, ultra radical right around him. The same thing the party did to Tulsi Gabbard, the same thing it did to RFK Jr., the same thing it did to Elon Musk. Most of them essentially maintained, they might have moved slightly right, but essentially what happened was the Overton window was moved. The Democrats shifted so far left, suddenly Tulsi Gabbard seems like an arch conservative. Suddenly Fetterman looks like a middle of the road conservative, and he looks absolutely sane and intelligent compared to the rest of the Democrats. Well, with all this going on, Trump is now calling for changes. Trump is calling for the quote unquote nuclear option. And I want to know what you think in the comments. Check this out as we dive into, will this happen to end the shutdown?
All right, now back to the show. The government has now been shut down for 31 days, and President Trump is telling Senate Republicans to use the nuclear option before SNAP benefits expire tomorrow.
This as more airports are experiencing major delays caused by staffing issues ahead of the holiday travel season.
Doug Lazader joins us live from Washington with the latest. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, everyone. President Trump says enough is enough. It is time to nuke the filibuster and reopen the government. Here's what he posted last night on Truth Social. It's now time for Republicans to play their Trump card and go for what is called the nuclear option. Get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now. That would allow Senate Republicans to reopen the government on their own, even though Senate leaders generally don't like the idea of any filibuster, but pressure is mounting. Troops are getting paid today. The Pentagon shifted some funds around, but federal SNAP benefits run out this weekend, and we're already seeing major flight disruptions in places like...
All right. So what do you think on the filibuster? Do you think the Republicans should basically end a rule? This is not a constitutional issue. Should they end a rule that has this, that basically mandates you get 2/3 of the Senate, 60 votes in order to move forward with any legislation? Let me know what you think. There are some problems with that. There's some good things and there are some problems.
People are already seeing it. But I think the big picture, guys, is the reason why those prices are going up, the premiums are going up, is not because of anything the Republicans did. It's because Obamacare is not working. The subsidies during the pandemic put a Band-Aid on a problem that is now apparent for everyone to see. I'm not sure that people are getting that message, though.
Well, Lindsey Graham said that he thinks Democrats will cave next week, but Hakeem Jeffries says you're delusional. We're not, or he didn't say that specifically to Lindsey, but they were asking him, when will y'all fold? And he said that the Republicans are delusional for thinking that Democrats will fold. They call it a dirty deal, cold stone liars. But President Trump says this is all about the legendary Trump derangement syndrome. They just hate him, so they don't want to give him a win.
Well, they're trying to hurt him in the process as well, but they're hurting the country right now. And when you talk to people, we all know federal workers that we know and care about. It's tough for them already. People, some of them living paycheck to paycheck. Do you really want someone that's an air traffic controller to have a second job when they need the focus to navigate the airwaves? Yeah. I just don't think it's smart at all. I do disagree with the president. I think it's a bad idea to eliminate the filibuster, but I understand his frustration. It looks like they're not willing to compromise or have some type of debate or anything like that. They just want to hurt him in the process.
But I think that what he's saying is, hey, you did it for judges, but you kept the filibuster for legislation. Why don't we just do it for shutdowns? And that's where I think that Mitch McConnell's not going to go with that. We know that for sure. Traditional Republicans don't. And also, I mean, they want hard to stop President Biden from blowing up the filibuster. We would have had 2 more states. We would have had a packed Supreme Court. And Joe Manchin and Senator Sinema saved the day. So I understand the...
So here's the problem. He just iterated it. Here's the problem with the filibuster. Once you end it, once it's gone, it's gone. You can't close Pandora's box again. So I do not think we should end the filibuster simply to reopen the government. Don't do that. If it's simply about reopening the government, do not end the filibuster for that. If you're going to end the filibuster, then I would do it now early in the term, but I would not do it unless you've already got the Republicans on board for what really needs to happen. If you're going to end the filibuster, then use your congressional, the fact that you own both houses of Congress and you have the president, and ramrod through major legislation. The only reason you end the filibuster now, you reopen the government as a side benefit, but you end the filibuster because you have the Republicans and you've already got the votes and you've already laid it out. You've got all the votes you need to repeal Obamacare, to change our asylum laws, as John Jackson says, to bar illegals, not just from welfare, but from every single government dime. They don't get anything. To make being in this country a felony if you're here illegally. To mandate nationwide voter ID and paper ballots, audited paper ballots for all federal elections. The states can do whatever they want for their state delegates, for their state senate, for the governor. But if it's a federal election, if it's U.S. House, U.S. Senate, or the presidency, then it's paper ballots, no machines, audited paper ballots, and voter ID. And then I would also ramrod through a new census. Okay, I got both houses. Okay, we're doing a brand new census. And that census will not count illegal aliens. And we will find out where everybody moved during the pandemic. And we will reapportion all of the seats in Congress and hence all the electoral votes prior to 2028. Only end the filibuster if you are willing to go full nuclear on this thing. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. We got one more story for today, and that's about 2028. Before we dive into that, please smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you like this content, please share A Courageous Media with everybody that you know. I really appreciate everybody rolling up. You guys are awesome. And we got one more story for you regarding 2028, and that is about who looks to be the current front runner to be the Democrat nominee in 2028, and that would be one Gavin Newsom. Check this out.
Is it fair to say after the 2026 midterms, you're going to give it serious thought?
Yeah, I'd be lying otherwise. I'd just be lying, and I can't do that.
Governor, you have long said that if you ever run for the White House, you need a compelling why, a reason. Are you moving closer to figuring out your own why and your own decision?
Yeah, Nietzsche said if you have a compelling why, you can endure any how. And so I think the biggest challenge for anyone who runs for any office is people see right through you if you don't have that why. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. And so, look, well, that fate will determine that.
You certainly seem to like being on the ground in South Carolina.
So we've got Gavin Newsom basically admitting the quiet part out loud that he is all about a run for the president. That's why he started his goofy little podcast. And that's why he ended his goofy little podcast and went back to just bashing Trump. He went to full Trump TDS because he realized that the party has gone so far left. I love that little clip. Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't thinking about 2028, and I'm not a liar. Actually, you are, because that's what this entire segment is about, is the fact that Gavin Newsom is a psychopath. Gavin Newsom is the most accomplished liar in the Democrat Party. That's what makes him scary. He cannot govern anything to save his life. He has utterly destroyed California. And everybody can see that, which is why up until now, he was never the front runner for president. But when the other people who've essentially thrown their hat in the ring are the Pete Buttigieg's of the world, the Kamala Harris's of the world, of course Gavin Newsom is going to be the front runner. Check this out from Harry Enton over at CNN, talking about this very fact. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah, look, it's like week one of the NFL. It's still very early, but as a Buffalo Bills fan, I can tell you, you'd rather see your fortunes rising in week one than falling. Thank you. Go Bills. What a win last night. My goodness gracious. Top Dem choices for the 2028 Democratic nominee. Look back in April. Look where Gavin Newsom was. He was at 8%. Look at where he is now, up to 21%. More than doubling his support from back in April before he really started taking on Donald Trump. Kamala Harris, who of course was the Dem nominee last time around, from 28% to 19%. And then you have AOC rounding out the top three right here at 12%. But the bottom line is this, very simply put, Gavin Newsom has gained a significant amount of ground since April. Now he's up there in the upper echelon of candidates. And there is no doubt in my mind what he is doing out in California isn't just staying out in California. It is moving nationally. Democrats nationally really like what they're seeing out of the California governor.
And there's one kind of area or signal that you really think shows that the most, that there could be a coalition here that could go across state lines, could go across different states.
You know, you mentioned it in the intro, Kate Baldwin, and I think it is so important to note that the Democratic Party is very diverse, white, black, Latino.
So basically what you've got is Gavin Newsom is betting his entire presidential run right now on simply being Trump deranged. That's all he's got. He can't point to his record in California. It's abysmal. He can't point to the fact that he's an honest broker because everybody knows he isn't. We're going to get into that because that's the scariest part about this candidate. It's the fact that he has simply remolded himself. He no longer does his little podcast where he invites people like Charlie Kirk on or whatnot and has real discussions. No, that didn't work with the Democrats because the Democrats are ultra far left now, the base of the Democrat Party, which you would need in a primary, and that's what all these polls are based on. They're not based on actual voters. They're based on Democrat primary voters. And so what you're finding is that he is now pandering to the ultra far Trump deranged base of the Democrat Party. And that's what's working. That's what's getting him these poll numbers in terms of being the 28 nominee. But that's not going to help you in a general election because Trump won't be there. You won't be able to be Trump deranged in 2028 and actually win because Trump won't be on the ballot. But just to show you why I think this is scary, why I think Gavin Newsom is scary is because Gavin Newsom is a chameleon. Gavin Newsom will wear any face. He will say anything. He will do anything to obtain power. He is Chavez. He is Maduro. He is, Lenin. He is all of these people rolled up. He is Fidel Castro. Whatever he has to say, whatever he has to do, whatever lie he has to tell, he will do to get in power. And then once there, he will do whatever he wants. Check this out. Let me know what you think in the comments about Gavin Newsom. What do you think? Is he easily defeated or is he scary?
Go ahead, Rob.
Of African Americans in the state of California, roughly half of Latino families have no access to a checking account or an ATM. Things we take for granted. They don't have a checking account.
What's wrong with them?
And well, because they don't have the resources to sock those things away.
Why do we have them?
A lot of different reasons.
Why those two groups don't have access?
Well, there are a lot of Just happens to be that. We can
So
talk
they're
about
flawed?
This. No, they're hardly flawed, but they're struggling.
Genetically
Folks are making
flawed.
their word. Hardly, not absolutely.
But okay,
not. Absolutely
do Asians have this problem?
I mean, a lot of communities have. A lot of whites have these problems.
Oh,
but
so that's not just black and Hispanic.
No, but
why did you bring up black and Hispanic?
Because the magnitude is ominous.
But why so many of them?
It just happens to be the
That's
magnitude.
the way God planned it?
Not at all.
Well,
It
what
just
happened to them?
There are a lot of issues, and with that communities are struggling. A lot
Why
of
are
new
they
immigrants,
struggling?
A lot of different reasons. The only reason why is the magnitude of the
There's
problem.
so many more.
The magnitude and percentage.
But there's no
terms
way to figure out how that happened.
of we could talk about it. You know what I'm dealing with? I don't want to have a sociological debate. I
Sure,
want
why
to deal
would
with
you?
No, here's why.
Why would you want to do that? Because the person from the Times wouldn't write good things about you if you did that.
No, that's not the case. Because I
You
want to
don't
deal
wanna
with
get into
reality.
that.
No.
You want to deal with reality.
I want to deal with the reality of people
is.
that are struggling. People are suffering. I want to deal with the problems in a
Why are
pragmatic
they
way.
struggling
I don't
and
want an
suffering?
idea. We can hold hands and surmise about all these
Pause it
other
right
things.
there.
I don't want to.
What did he say right after this interview was done? What did he tell you?
He's Teflon. He doesn't care. He's a sociopath. So he doesn't, it's like, did you feel bad after you killed your wife and her family? Like, no, I'm a sociopath. You know what I mean? I had wings.
How could I do this?
Yeah.
Well, that's Adam Carolla. He was the interviewer in that clip. And that's what I wanted you to hear. That's what people are waking up to now, is that Gavin Newsom is a complete and utter sociopath. He has no moral compass. He is Teflon. He doesn't care what anybody thinks about him or says about him, other than how does that translate to me getting votes, enough votes to get power. He will do whatever he has to do to obtain power. And once he has obtained it, he will destroy America just like he has destroyed California. Check this out from Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson recognizes this same fact. Again, let me know what you think in the comments as we roll through these.
I know Gavin Newsom, and I think a lot about Gavin Newsom, many different things about Gavin Newsom. But one thing I know for a fact about Gavin Newsom is he has the capacity to beat a lie detector test. Gavin Newsom will say anything he needs to say, and not like Biden's not like this actually. Whatever Biden's fault, he's not like this. Like Biden would, he has like guilt. If he's lying to you, he gets twitchy. Gavin Newsom's palms don't sweat. His respiration doesn't increase. His body temperature doesn't change. Nothing changes in Gavin Newsom when he lies to your face. And there are not that many people like that, actually. That's a rare quality. Like to lock down the state, to keep people's kids from getting an education, and to arrest people for surfing, and then go have dinner at the French Laundry. Like most people couldn't do that. They'd just be like,
You're saying he's a sociopath. He can lie and not care.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but so I don't really know the category, and I'm not going to diagnose him, but I'll just say in 50 years of being around a lot of people, I've met very few who can behave that way. Very, very few. It's a very unusual quality, and of course, it's probably useful in politics. I know Gavin.
He is 100% a sociopath. Now check this out, because Megyn Kelly pulled this one up. And this is actually amazing, because now this is relevant because it's about Charlie Kirk. So Megyn Kelly has caught Newsom in a major lie as well. And that's why this is all relevant, because I saw this clip and I wanted you to see it, but I wanted to get the context of why this is so important, especially as Newsom makes a run for 2028. Check this out.
Gavin Newsom, shame on him, because he invited Charlie on his podcast, and Charlie went and sat in the lion's den with a far left guy, was courteous to him. I think he was his inaugural guest. Did him that courtesy, bring all these eyeballs to his show. And what does Gavin Newsom do? Betrays him. So here's what Gavin said to Charlie when Charlie was sitting on his set about Gavin Newsom's own son, Sot 1.
Last night, trying to put my son to bed, he's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is
you canceled school for like 2 years. Once one day.
The point is the point.
Exactly. You canceled school for 2 years and screwed an entire generation of kids. What's one day for your son? That's great. That's a great line by Charlie.
Which is, you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
So his son was such an ardent fan that he begged Gavin Newsom to let him stay home from school, begged him to tell him exactly what time they had to get up and Charlie was coming. and then was obviously very disappointed that he didn't get to go. And here's Gavin Newsom on CNN Monday with an entirely different description of what went down. SOT 2.
That's your son, obviously a fan of Charlie Kirk. What was the conversation like between you and your son after Charlie Kirk was assassinated?
Well, he called me, I don't know how he got a phone, but he called me from school that day, really alarmed. And all his friends were around the phone that wanted me to somehow express or understand what was going on. He wanted to know if he was dead. He wasn't a fan of him as much as he was familiar with him. And it was.
Oh, he somehow managed to find a phone as a 13-year-old, which he doesn't have, at school. He managed to find a phone. He called you with his friends, frantic about, did Charlie Kirk die at the hands of that assassin? If somebody's familiar with somebody, they don't call you frantic wondering if that person's alive. They only do that if they are a fan, if they love that person from afar. Gavin Newsom is an utter and complete liar and is willing to tell lies even about his own family members.
Very revelatory for me, because he's also out there. My son is 11, 12 years old. He's sitting there talking to me about not just Charlie Kirk, but folks like Andrew Tate. And he's, sort of beyond Joe Rogan, in many ways, sort of Facebook in so many respects, of sort of this novelty of the pod, manosphere, et cetera. And it was so interesting to me in that context that he knew so much about Kirk. And that was a true story. I didn't know what he was staying or stand for. He didn't even have a strong position himself.
Oh, okay. So now it's suddenly he wasn't a fan as much as just familiar with Charlie. And that's why he begged his father to let him meet Charlie, to get up early in the day, to skip school just so he could shake Charlie's hand, just because of his familiarity.
Yes, Gavin Newsom is an utter and complete liar. And even worse than his lies are what he does. Check this out, because this is how it all sums up. This is the problem we face if this chameleon, if this sociopath ever gets anywhere near real national power.
The first thing is that it's impossible now to listen to him at all. It's so insufferable. Like the endless BS on every single issue. We're seeing it on redistricting, of course, with his lies about that, and on every other issue. And we can joke about this Latinx thing, but it's symptomatic of the fact that you can't believe a word he says. But the real point, and as you said, I'm on the road the whole time fighting for change in California. People are sick of the reality of life in California. Right now, thanks to Gavin Newsom's totally disastrous rule, we have in California the highest unemployment rate in America, the highest poverty rate, the highest cost for everything that matters. Gas prices, electricity, water, house prices, rent, everything. The worst business climate in America. On and on. He's a massive failure on every front. The worst governor in America, certainly, probably one of the worst in history when you actually look at the facts. And it's those facts, I think, that are going to propel voters to demand change next year. That's why I'm very confident, despite what all the media assumes here in California and the arrogance of the Democrats, that I will win next year and we will have change here in California.
That would be amazing to see a Republican governor once again in California. But what he said there was so true. California is essentially the worst at everything. Highest unemployment, highest poverty, highest cost, worst business climate. You've got businesses relocating out of California left and right. It's absolutely amazing to see what's going on. Gavin Newsom is a sociopath. He's a psychopathic liar. He can do it. He can lie with impunity. He doesn't care. He will do anything to get power. And we need to make sure in 2028, which is just 3-4 years from now, that we elect J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, however it shakes out in the Republican primary. We need to make sure we get another 8 years of Republican administration in order to cement the changes that Trump and MAGA have made initially and to take them further. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hey, I really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks for being here on a Friday. Please smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications. If you like the content, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Help us grow the channel, get out of the box that YouTube has put us in. Remember that God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Till I catch you next time.